Hey guys, it's that one gaming nerd guy. I am here to talk to you a little bit about the new Star Wars film that they just announced. Well, it's not new. I don't know. For those of you that don't know, I'll put a link down in the description. There are going to be new Star Wars films in 2015. They're going to start with Episode 7, and they're going to do 7, 8, and 9. Obviously, the last trilogy to round off the story, and then they're bringing back all the original actors: Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher. All of them are going to be, those are the big three that are coming back. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about was they just announced that there's going to be Origin spin-off movies. And I think it's a really interesting subject because if you think about it, it doesn't really matter who you cast as Boba Fett, because the two people they're going to focus on with Origin movies is Boba Fett and Han Solo. So it doesn't really matter who you cast as Boba Fett. I assume they're going to cast the same actor. I mean, he's not that old. They already changed the voices of the Stormtroopers in the original trilogy when they did the re-edit to be that actor's name. I can't remember his name now. And but anyway, so they... I don't think it really matters if they cast the same actor or not. They probably will for Boba Fett, but you don't know. The same actor as Jango Fett, rather. I should clarify. So, anyway, what I wanted to talk about was who was going to be the new Han Solo. Now, what I know people want, and I want this too, don't get me wrong, but I think what people want to see is something like what Jeff Bridges did in Tron Legacy. If you remember back at Tron Legacy, Jeff Bridges did not cast someone to be his younger self. What they did was they motion capped his face, and he did all the acting, but then in CGI they made him look younger. Okay? So I think they could do something similar with that with Harrison Ford. Obviously, it would be awesome if they did that. I mean, it would kind of look wonky, just like, you know, the Tron Legacy looked wonky. You could tell it was CGI. If it was a little lower res, maybe not so much, but I don't know. Unless they improve it, I think it might look a little strange. And I would not totally be against someone being cast as Han Solo in a different, light. As a younger Han Solo. The Han Solo, I think what they're planning to do is, it's in the article, is they're going to make a Han Solo Origins movie that's based in between Episode 3 and Episode 4. So basically, it's, during that 20-year or so period when, after, Luke and Leia get born and, Padme dies and Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader, like fully, the whole suit and everything. And then before Episode 4 begins, when Obi-Wan Kenobi, approaches Luke Skywalker and says, hey, we got to start doing whatever. So, anyway, it's supposed to happen in between those two films. So, but they potentially could cast, depending on when exactly, because 20 years is a long time, so depending on when exactly they set the plot for the movie, he could be a rather young Han Solo, like just starting out his career, they could have a couple different renditions of Han Solo. There could be like a kid Han Solo, and then so there's tons of possibilities that they could do to cast a different actor as Han Solo. And so I wanted to give you kind of my list of people that I thought would make sense. And each one is a little bit different. I have 5 people on here. Now, unfortunately, I only like 4. The 5th one is on there because I'm afraid that because of Steven Spielberg's liking him and his past work with Harrison Ford and everything, that he might choose him. I hope they don't, but, I mean, they could be dumb like DC Comics and cast someone like Ben Affleck as Batman, Anyway, I'll get to him in a minute. I'm going to save him for last. So the first one on my list is Sean Roberts. Now, if you don't remember who Sean Roberts is, the biggest role he's had is the villain on Resident Evil. Okay, so he was one of the main Umbrella Corporation people on Resident Evil, and he was the villain in the most recent one. A little bit less well-known part was he was the boyfriend of Rogue in the original X-Men movie back in 2000. And 13 years ago. That seems like a long time ago. It is. So, anyway, yeah, Sean Roberts, I think he looks the part. I think that he's an unknown actor enough to make us not prejudge him. See, that's one of the bad things about casting someone in such a huge role. Whenever they have such a career behind them, I think it's best to cast someone that's unknown. Because, like, with Christian Bale as Batman, I didn't know who Christian Bale was. I had kind of seen him in a few movies, but he, I had no idea who he was. And yet he turned out to be one of the best Batmans I've ever seen. The only other person that comes close to him is Michael Keaton. And but at the same time, you can cast someone like Heath Ledger and be like, why in the world are you casting Heath Ledger as the Joker? That doesn't make any sense. And then he becomes the best Joker of all time. So it's like, I don't know. You never know. But I think the best bet is to try and cast someone that's not as well known. And I think Sean Roberts fits the bill there. My next one is for Han Solo that may be a little bit younger. This actor is 20 years old. It's Josh Hutcherson. He starred in the most recent Hunger Games and is about to star in the upcoming Hunger Games Catching Fire. He was also in the Journey films, Journey to the Center of the Earth and Journey to Atlantis. And he was also on the Jumanji sequel, the Zuthran or whatever. I don't know if there was a space Jumanji. But anyway, so I think that he would work. I think that he's got the look. He's a little young, but like I said, if they cast a younger Han Solo that's like meant to be young, this is an origin story, then I think that he could work. I think that he's a little famous now for the preteen, style, not preteen, but teen, movies like Hunger Games and the Journey movies and all that. He's an up-and-rising actor. He's not completely well-known in the blockbuster realm, and I think that this would be a good fit for him. My third actor is Dave Franco. Dave Franco played in... he was in Warm Bodies. He was in a few other films. He's got the look. I'm a little bit cautious about his... past, though. I think he could work, but his past roles have always been a very kind of stoner themed kind of role, a lot like how Keanu Reeves got his reputation after Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures and all that stuff, Bill and Ted movies, and a couple of his other films like I Love You to Death. He was a pothead in that movie. So I mean, I think you can get a reputation, and unfortunately Dave Franco has gotten that reputation. His best movie so far has been Warm Bodies, where he obviously was a zombie coming back to life. There was a lot of emotion in that, a lot of humor, and I think a big part of Han Solo is you have to have that wit. You have to have that humor aspect going. And I think Dave Franco could nail that, but he's got to come... he's a little short on the action hero. Han Solo is one of the most amazing characters that was ever devised. Not only is he a comic relief a lot of the times, and he makes these witty, wry comments that aren't just lame one-liners. I mean, they make sense, and they're part of the whole thing, and it's part of his personality. He doesn't just come up with these one-liners that it's like, oh, that's stupid. No. It's hard to explain. If you've seen the Star Wars films, you know what I'm talking about. So I think that if Dave Franco can come forward and be better at the action hero portion of Han Solo's character, because I think he has the humor part down, then I think he'd be a good fit. My fourth actor is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now, he has a much, much bigger star, and he's been all over the place. He has played multiple roles all over the place. And I think he would be a good fit, except he's usually not a very funny character in any of his movies. He can make some small wry comments that are just him being kind of smart alecky, but not like what Han Solo would be. But I think that if he gives it his all, I think he would be good. Another thing that's holding Joseph Gordon-Levitt back, I think, is the fact that he's always played a very underdog wimpy kind of a character. You know, he's capable in all of his movies, but I don't know. He can handle himself, but at the same time, he's not the lead. And I think that this would be a good chance for him to take that. I think that if he can have a good on-screen presence, which he hasn't had in the past, almost all of his movies that he's done, he's an excellent supporting actor. But his on-screen presence wasn't that commanding presence that Han Solo would demand of him. And I think he'd have to overcome that. But if he could, I think it'd be a great fit. And my last, and unfortunately the one I think that might actually get it if they cast a new one, just because of his past work with Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg and all that, and you know, the travesty that was the last Indiana Jones film, Shia LaBeouf. I think that Shia LaBeouf has an actually good running chance at becoming the new Han Solo, only because he has connections with the people that are working on this film. And that is unfortunate, because I think that there are tons more actors that I'm not listing here that would be better at this Han Solo role than Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf is annoying to me. I know that not everybody thinks that, and I'm sorry, Shia, if you ever watch this, but, you know, you've got a certain kind of presence on screen, and it's not a leading role type of presence. Even in the Transformer trilogy, whenever he was the actual leading actor, he wasn't the leading actor. He wasn't the person that was doing everything. He was a victim, and he was like an underdog. And you know, even the best film he's ever done was Holes, and even then he was a victim. He was someone that was part of a scheme, you know, that was a victim of a scheme. And, you know, and he plays that role well. He does. But he doesn't have a commanding presence. And the one time that they tried to give him a commanding presence, he came off as an annoying kid, because that's what he does best, an annoying kid. And of course I'm referring to The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That movie, I don't care what people say, that movie went back to the basics of Indiana Jones, and it was good, other than the fact that Shia LaBeouf was cast as Indiana Jones' son. And you know, you don't... I think that for that film it was okay. For that role it was fine. But I don't want to see Shia LaBeouf in a leading role like this. And unfortunately, I have him on my list because I think that he has a good chance to get it. So that would be unfortunate if that happens. Obviously, you know, we're all upset about someone like Alec Baldwin being... not Alec Baldwin. Oh, gosh. I'm dumb. Ben Affleck. So unfortunately, I mean, if they decide to do Shia LaBeouf as Han Solo, like, you know, it'd be the same kind of thing that DC Comics did with Ben Affleck as Batman. I mean, you never know, but at the same time, it's like they've got such a huge career behind them that stereotypically does not have that character. And when you think of them acting, you know, there are some actors that can do almost any role anyway, which, you know, is you know, those are really good versatile actors, and they're not as good, they're not as credited as they should be. They're not as well credited as they should be. And then there's actors like Shia LaBeouf, Ben Affleck, Tom Hanks, Johnny Depp, Robert Downey Jr. These people act a very specific way, and you cast them because you don't want them to be the character, that you want them to be themselves on that screen acting that character, you know. And so I know a lot of people like Johnny Depp, but his acting is so predictable, and he might have a bunch of mannerisms and accents and stuff like that down to just portray different characters. And he's a very good actor, and he's the least predictable out of all of them. that I just mentioned, but like he has a very certain way of acting. His role as the Mad Hatter was very similar to his role as Captain Jack Sparrow. When you look at how he acts, about his insanity marker of it, you know, it was very similar. I mean, obviously there was different accents, different mannerisms, but you knew that it was Johnny Depp under that makeup, under that beard. Okay, the one movie that he completely blew my mind and like transformed himself was it was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I didn't even realize that was Johnny Depp at first. I mean, that clean-shaven, makeup, stretched face with the hair. I mean, it was very well done, and his acting was actually different, which was a little bit different than what I'm used to from Johnny Depp. So, anyway, there's one of the reasons why I haven't cast why I haven't put on my list more knowable people or more well-known people, is simply because they need to cast someone younger, and which is why, and they need to also cast someone not as well-known. And I think that if you do that, it will work, and if they don't, it'll probably fail. So, those are my ideas and thoughts on who should be cast for Han Solo. Thanks for watching. If you like that One Gaming Nerd guy, that's me. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you later on. Thanks, guys.